Hi, thanks everybody for joining. So this is the EGU Exhibitor Webinar, where we'll meet the editors of our new launch journals at Nature Research, our new launch journals in Earth Sciences. So today we're going to hear from Heike Langenberg, the Chief Editor of Communications, Earth and Environment. So we at Communications, Earth and Environment started publishing in August 2020. And we'll also hear from Graham Simpkins, the Chief Editor of Nature Reviews Earth and Environment, which started publishing in January 2020. I'm Joe Aslin. I'm an Associate Editor at Communications Earth and Environment, and I'll be putting your questions to Heike and Graham at the end of the session. They'll each speak for about 15 minutes, and we'll have 2 question and answer sessions, one after Heike, one after Graham speaks. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box, and then I will ask them to, or I might ask you to ask them at the end to Heike and then to Graham. So without further ado, I think we'll get started. Heike, I think you're going to go first.
Thank you very much. Welcome to this webinar. I'm going to talk about Communications, Earth and Environment here at this virtual EGU of 26th of April 2021. I used to go to EGU every year in Vienna, but sadly not this year. Communications, Earth and Environment is a new journal we launched for publication, as Joe just explained, in August 2020, and I've put up here one of the papers we had on our hero screen. I am an oceanographer, so I'm a bit partial to oceanography papers. Okay, here we go. Open Communications, Earth and Environment is an open access journal. We cover all the Earth, environmental and planetary sciences, so basically everything that is at EGU would also be suitable in principle for publication in our journal. And we are part of the Nature portfolio with the same ethos of author service and research integrity. I have worked for various other Nature journals before, Nature itself, Nature Geoscience, and I've brought with me the ethos from Nature portfolio. We are editorially selective, so we only publish papers that we feel have an impact in the community, but we are not as selective as the Nature branded journals. I'd like to be a more accessible venue for early career researchers. We do promote the broad reach of our articles, for example, on Twitter and with press releases. And we're looking for really high quality papers in a subject area that's obviously relevant to our audience. So anything that would interest us, environmental and planetary scientists. And we publish mainly primary research that provides novel insights that change the thinking within the specialist field. So the appeal doesn't have to be quite as broad as for Nature or Nature Geoscience, for example. It's within the specialist field, but we do want novel insights, and we do not compromise on the quality of our research articles. We also publish some opinion pieces and overview articles. Usually this will be pieces that comment on community issues. They are largely commissioned, but we are also welcoming submissions, suggestions for topics by email or things like that, and then we can communicate with the authors on what would be suitable or which direction the piece should be taken into in order to make it suitable for the journal. So we welcome suggestions, but largely these pieces are commissioned. Our mainstay publication are primary research papers. We want to promote open science, transparency, reproducibility, and diversity. We have policies in place to help with that. We make our data fair, so findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, by asking authors to place them in a repository, in a publicly accessible repository. We do not accept statements of data are available on request from the authors. Obviously, where it can't be done, where there are legal or ethical problems with making the data available, people can state that, but we would like as far as possible to make data broadly available. We also have a system of transparent peer review. That means we publish reports, author responses, our editor decision letters with the published papers if the authors opt in. And of the papers we published in 2020, actually 77% of our authors opted in. So That's quite a high rate, and we are very proud to be as transparent as that. We have an unlimited method section, so we ask for a level of detail of the methods that will allow reproducibility, that will allow an independent researcher to do the same study in order to be as transparent as possible. We do our best to have a diverse editorial board. Obviously, there's always more to be done, but we try to get people from all countries, all continents, women and men, and everything we can think of. We want to have the perspectives of everybody in the world on our board as far as we can do that. We have an editor recognition statement on each paper so that editors get the recognition for handling the paper, editorial board members and internal editors as well. And we do recognition for reviewers. So we have a certificate for every reviewer to download, that they can download themselves to prove that they have reviewed for either any of the Nature portfolio journals. And we also have a regular Outstanding Reviewer Award where we honor people who have put particular effort into peer review, because we do value very much the contribution of the community. We have an in-house team of 3 full-time communications, earth and environment editors and 1 consulting editor. So there's myself, the chief editor, and I handle largely the climate sciences. There's Joe, whom you've just met, who largely handles solid earth. There's our colleague Claire Davis, who handles biogeochemistry, and the 3 of us are in London, who helps us with the environmental chemistry, and she is based in Berlin. We work closely with our editorial board, and we currently have 19 editorial board members. So I haven't put all the photos up, but you can see them on our page, on the homepage. Sorry, my slide is stuck. Okay, papers we publish. In Communications, Earth and Environment, as I said, we started publishing in August, so these are all pretty recent. We've had some really popular papers, and I just wanted to put up some of the highlights. We've had a broad range of subjects in our highlights. There's Greenland ice, there's country-based emission reductions, there's something on Earth's habitability, which unfortunately the title is slightly cut off, I'm sorry about that. And there was something about slab avalanches and mystery deaths in the Dyatlov Pass in the Urals. Just a few highlights to show you the breadth of papers that we have published and the sort of impact they have been getting. So basically the message is, if you have a paper for us, submit it to us. There's a link to our online manuscript tracking system. If you want to get in touch about anything, any questions about the journal, email us at comsenf@nature.com. You can get our updates on Twitter. You can follow us. We tweet all the papers we published and quite a few other things as well. So have a look at our Twitter stream if you like. If you'd like more information, obviously check out our homepage. And if you would like to join our editorial board, we have a form for people to kind of fill in where people can put themselves forward, and we look at the form on a regular basis and find new editorial board members in order to expand our board and to give everybody a chance to kind of tell us they're interested. And then of course we choose the people where we need subject areas who are suitable, who fit within what we currently need. Thanks very much. That's all I had in terms of slides. Any questions?
Thanks, Heike. Oh, thanks, Heike. We don't have any questions at the moment. If anybody does have a question for Heike, please just put it in the questions box or the chat box, and then we'll put it to Heike. As we haven't got anything at the moment, I suggest we move on to hearing from Graham, and then we can answer all questions at the end. Graham?
Cool.
There we go.
Can you see and hear me?
Yes.
Let's just see if I can change the slide. Apparently not. Nope. Is anything happening your end, Heike?
No, I can't move the slides at the moment either.
Okay. Sorry, everyone.
Um,
Technical difficulties.
I can see a mouse. There we go.
Oh,
I don't know who moved that one then.
I did. Graham, just say next slide and I'll do that.
okay. Cool. So thanks for joining. Heike has obviously just talked about communications, earth and environment. So now I'm going to be changing tack slightly and introducing or providing a very brief introduction to Nature Review's Earth and Environment, which is the journal I am chief editor for. Slide, please. So here, I wanted to give a brief overview of our history, which obviously isn't very long, but I think it's important to celebrate the milestones we've achieved. So I started in the journal in January 2019, and I had a year's build up before we launched in January 2020, and that's marked by the confetti in our launch cover there. And I've just provided a QR link to the editorial from that issue in case any of you are interested in reading it. We launched January 2020, and then this January we celebrated our first birthday, marked here with balloons and our first birthday cake. And as part of that, we produced a first anniversary collection. So the QR link is here if anyone wanted to take a look at that. It includes a editorial as well as a very short video just celebrating some of the achievements in our first year. Obviously, we're hoping there'll be many more issues and volumes coming in the future. So while our history is short, at present, I think we've achieved quite a lot. And now I'm going to go a bit more into detail about our processes and what we actually do at the journal. Next slide, please, Heike.
Very sorry, I can't move the slides again. I'm trying, but it doesn't seem to.
I can see the map.
Okay.
There we go. So as the name of the journal implies, Nature Reviews Earth and Environment, we publish review type articles. Whereas Heike mentioned, she primarily publishes primary research, so new results and analyses. We do not publish any of that. So we kindly ask for you not to submit those articles to us. Instead, we publish, as I mentioned, review type articles, which includes reviews themselves. These are authoritative overviews of a particular area of interest, and our articles are relatively short, around 7,000 words maximum. And the point of being short is that we want to encourage people to read the entire piece. And if articles end up being 15,000 words, quite often people don't read them from start to finish. That's a review article. We also publish perspectives. These are slightly shorter than reviews, and the difference between them is that they can be more opinionated. So this could be on topics that perhaps have stagnated and need a little bit of a push, or perhaps topics that there's a lot of debate, and you can't explicitly state with authority that these things are happening, so there needs to be more of a discussion to move the field forward. So examples of perspectives we've published include those on soil health, for example, or the concept of soil health. That's quite debated in the community as to whether it's a useful concept. So we have a piece on that. And another example of a perspective is, we had one on the effect of COVID lockdown. So that was published last July, and things were relatively new at that time. And it's going to take a long while to look at the environmental impact of these lockdowns. So this particular article was, I guess, hypothesizing on what effects they could happen. We also publish technical reviews. So these are more methods focused, but perhaps looking at a particular technique or specific analyses used for data sets. So an example of a technical review we published is one on full wave inversion. These are again about 7,000 words, and generally we publish fewer of them in comparison to the other article types. But one thing that these all have in common is they filter, digest, and synthesize information. That's, I guess, the bread and butter of a review article. All of our articles must have some of those components. And again, we do not publish primary research. Next slide, please, Heike. Again, so the name implies Nature Reviews. We're a reviews journal. The Earth and Environment implies that we publish all aspects of earth and environmental science. Something that differs to HiCA is that we do not publish planetary science. We're very much focused on Earth, or perhaps how understanding of the Earth can potentially enhance understanding of the solar system, but generally we don't really cover those topics. For ease, I kind of divided the journal into 3 main areas. So we have weather and climate. So that's all aspects of weather and climate, from oceanography, glaciology, general climate science, adaptation, mitigation, climate impact, and so on. We then have solid earth, which is more of the geology focused topic, so tectonics, hazards, geodynamics, geochemistry, economic geology. And then we also publish the articles in surface processes. That's anything like centered around the surface, plus or minus a few units of distance. So that includes biogeochemistry, geomorphology, hydrology, and also included in that area is more of the environmental impact side of things. Next slide, please, Heike.
Sorry.
All right. So the journal, it's kind of all-encompassing, all aspects of earth and environment. And while perhaps I missed a few things on the slide there, if it's relevant to earth and environmental science, we would publish it. So we have 3 editors on our team. Each person handles a particular theme for the journal. So we have Laura Zinke, who handles areas in surface processes. She has a background in biogeochemistry, which makes her perfect for this area. We then have Erin, who handles the solid earth papers. She joined us last year after spending 2 years at Nature Communications. And then myself, here's me posing in the Peak District a few weeks ago. I handle all areas of weather and climate, and I bring a few years of editorial expertise from Nature Communications and Nature Climate Change. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to take a bit of a moment to talk through our workflow, because it is very different to other journals. Specifically, we have what's called the Nature Reviews treatment. And essentially, that just means that we're a lot more involved in the process than at many other journals. So here I've just tried to give a quick flow chart where the green aspects are where we provide a fair amount of editorial input. So we initially commission articles. So 90% of the articles we publish will be commissioned by us. That means that myself, Erin, or Laura will come up with an idea. We will approach an author and ask them to write the review on whatever that topic may be. We initially request a synopsis, so that's a quick overview to see kind of what content they would like to include and how it will be structured. We then provide a lot of input there to make sure it includes everything we would like to be included, and it's structured how we would like it to be structured, so that the piece flows, which makes it easier for you, the readers, to understand. If all is good at that stage, we request a full version. And again, once we have the full draft in hand, we again provide editorial input in terms of the content structure, the flow, and the display items. It's then sent to peer review, as with all articles. And at that point, we often provide context or advice on how to address the referee concerns. You, as the author, then revise the article, and once it's been through, I guess, usually 1 or 2 stages of revisions, it would eventually be accepted in principle. At that stage, we then do what's called a line edit, which means that we thoroughly go through line by line, every line in the review, and edit for clarity, language, and accessibility. At that stage, we also ask the art editors to redraw any figures. And again, these are stylized so that they're in the Nature Review style. And we also want to make sure that the figures are clear, complement the text, and are accessible for non-experts. And then eventually the article is accepted. So I guess the nuts and bolts here don't matter, but what is important is that we do have a lot of input in the art, in shaping the article in terms of the content and the flow, and that's just because we want the article to be the best that they can possibly be. But this does differ to several other journals. So I think it's good to be upfront and outline that this is what we do, and authors are generally very happy with that. Next slide, please, Heike. So here I just wanted to give a couple of examples of the artwork. You can't really make them out perfectly, but it doesn't matter. So at the top, I have just several sketches from authors, and then at the bottom, I have the published versions. So this just shows, what the art editors do in terms of taking a general concept or a very vague sketch and making it into a beautiful figure, which is hopefully clear and scientifically, I guess, understandable and accessible to many people. So this comes into one component of the Nature Reviews treatment that authors are really, really happy with. They like having the ability to work with these art editors and produce these figures, which often end up being reproduced in several other papers or used in presentations. Next slide, please, Heike. So here I'm just going to quickly go through some examples of the papers we've published in each of the themes. Again, I've included the QR codes here in case any of you are interested to take a look at those papers. So this first slide is for papers published in the weather and climate theme. As you can see, the topics are very diverse, spanning from compound events to Earth system prediction, intensification of rainfall extremes, and here the sea level rise and human migration. So I included this human migration paper just to show that we are very interested in more of the social aspects of climate change, and we do publish those. Next slide, please. So here we have papers in the surface processes theme, ranging from global greening to the evolution of the Earth's biosphere. And here's the soil health paper I mentioned earlier. So that's a perspective. And I also mentioned that we publish more of these environmental impact papers. So here is one that we published on fast fashion. So this paper has done extremely well in terms of all metric scores. So it was picked up by media because it's an extremely timely and societally relevant topic. And these are the kind of things that we try to commission on. So again, I would, think about, oh, this is a very interesting topic, it has a lot of societal interest, I will approach an author to write a review article on that. Next slide, please. And finally, just some papers from the Solid Earth theme, ranging from subduction erosion to the supercontinent cycle, which was published last week, geothermal energy, and pyroclastic density currents. So again, I can't provide examples of every single paper here, but hopefully you just get the gist of the range of topics that we're interested in at the journal. Next slide, please. So here I just wanted to include a bit of feedback from authors. As I mentioned, the process at Nature Reviews Earth and Environment is quite different. And, a lot of people are, or perhaps may not be willing, I guess, to give up a bit of control of their paper and accept the input that we provide in terms of improving the flow, etc. So here I just wanted to include a few snippets of feedback to show that it is appreciated by authors and that they do recognise that it does make the papers better than the versions that we originally received. So here the top example, they would have made us a co-author due to the considerable contributions to structure and editorial guidance. The second example, just in bold, but the involvement and leadership of editors in the process ensured scientific efficacy. Another author, this is the best journal experience I can remember, and I'm very eager to recommend the journal. And just a couple of examples at the bottom about the line edit itself. One author recognizing, I like the paper much better now. And the final example, the final editing is of course an excellent service. In most cases, it would definitely make the text clearer and more accessible to a wide audience. And this is, is the whole point of having us as editors on this journal, is to guide the pieces and make them the best review articles that they could possibly be. Next slide, please. I mentioned that 90% of our articles are commissioned. That doesn't mean that you can't submit an idea if you have one. So if you do, please send us a synopsis that briefly outlines the title, the authors, the key messages, the rationale and scope. Importantly, it should include the sections and subsections and the material that will be included in those. including the display items and some key references. So you can upload this to our manuscript service, and then we will assess it and decide basically whether it's something that we would want to proceed with. But as I mentioned, the majority of our articles are commissioned by us, so we can only accept very few proposals. Next slide, please. I'm nearly done. 5 things to remember. We're a subscription-based online-only journal publishing review-type articles. Our remit is very broad, covering all aspects of earth and environmental science. We have a team of professional editors, each of us are PhD level trained. And we have art editors who make the figures beautiful, and most content is commissioned, but we do accept unsolicited proposals. I think that's it from me. Sorry, I went probably on longer than 15 minutes, but hopefully there's still plenty of time for questions. Next slide, Heike. I think, so yeah, if you would like further information, here's the websites for both us and Comms Earth and Environment, as well as our Twitter handles, and QR codes will take you straight to the home pages where you can provide a lot, you can find a lot more information in the guide to authors. So yeah, I'm happy to take any questions, and I'm sure Heike would be if any have come in for her about her journal too.
Thanks, Graham. So we don't have any questions in just yet. Oh, we've just got one actually from John.
Excellent.
From John Gould. What we could actually do, I could unmute you, John, and then you can ask it yourself, perhaps. This is a question for Heike. I think I've unmuted you now.
Okay.
John, can you? Yes, I think we can hear you now. No, sorry, we can't. Okay, well, in that case, I will ask your question for you, John. So it's a question for Heike. Each paper has a comment section, but quickly skimmed through, and I can't see that many papers attract online comment. Could you comment on how well used the online comment option is?
Yes, as you noticed, it is not that well used. Partly, I think, because we want to make sure that people identify themselves and sign their comments. So you have to sign into the page in order to leave a comment. We don't want people who just do random comments that are not actually based in reality. So we want to know who makes a comment, and I think that this limits somewhat how many comments you get, but it does improve the quality of comments quite a lot. We would encourage people to comment if they want to, but it just doesn't happen very much. People are very busy.
Thank you. I'm unmuted now. Thank you.
So if anybody else has any questions, perhaps you could just put your name in the question pane, and then I can unmute you, or attempt to, or you can put the question in. We don't have any more at the moment. Yep,
so we also, Heike mentioned early career researchers, so I can just also touch on the fact that we're also, we have these article types called tools of the trade, which are written exclusively by early career researchers. So they are just short, 200 to 300 words, which include a photo of said author doing exciting field work in an exciting country or wherever. And the purpose of these articles is, to give an opportunity for early career researchers to undergo experience in receiving feedback from editors. So we put a call on Twitter a few months ago, and we will be doing another call in probably another couple of months. So please do keep an eye out on those if you're interested in contributing to the journal as an early career researcher, and that you love your scientific method and you want other people to find out more information about it. Like I said, these are only about 300 words, just providing a bit of context to the method, how it works, and the insight it's provided. And it gives me a good opportunity to include some of these awesome pictures that people take from their fieldwork. That makes us as an editorial team extremely jealous.
Thanks, Graham. So if we still don't have any further questions, I think we can probably end end the webinar there. So final call for any questions, but if not, then thank you everybody for joining, and thanks Heike and Graham for taking us through the 2 new Earth Science journals.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining.